Hi everyone, this is Neel Raithatha, also known as the Wax Whisperer. Thank you for joining me in my latest video. I have a couple of clients for you today, and both clients reported really severe itchiness in their ear. Client 1, which is what you're seeing on screen at the moment, has a buildup of dry, itchy, dead skin, and client 2, that you'll see a bit later, has really impacted itchy earwax. And with this particular patient, this skin has just failed to migrate out of our ear. Our ears have evolved over millennia to naturally shed and migrate the skin out of the ear, so the ear naturally expels the ear. If it wasn't able to do that, then all of our ears would be full of dead skin. And that's because the skin that lines the ear canal and the outermost membrane of the eardrum, it's made up of epithelial skin cells, and they form collectively the epidermis, the outermost layer of skin. And this skin, it continually sheds and is replaced by an underlayer of epidermis skin cells. And this occurs all throughout our body. But unlike, for example, your scalp, when the skin dies and sheds from your scalp, or probably another better example is on your forehand, for example, the skin cells will just fall to the ground, either when you're showering or when you're put your clothes on, for example. Any friction, the skin cells will just they'll die and they'll just fall away. In the ear, it's slightly different. If the skin cells in the ears just shed and just fall, it's going to block our ears, and everyone in the world will need to get their ears clean on a regular basis to remove all the dead skin cells. So the ears evolve. So as the skin dies and sheds, it should migrate naturally out of the ear. And this process starts from the centre of the eardrum. So that's the eardrum there, just a bit of skin superiorly that I'm going to remove using a fine end. You'll see the hammer bone there. The hammer bone on screen, it's the pinky, elongated structure. You can see the blood vessels around it, dilated. In the middle of the eardrum, where the hammer bone attaches, we have what we call the umbo. You can think about that as being the bullseye on a darts board. And our skin starts to migrate from the umbo, and it migrates outwards radially. So the best analogy I can give is, imagine you're standing on top of a pond and you drop a little pebble or stone in the centre of it. You'll have a ripple effect. And imagine those ripples being the dead skin on the eardrum, and they'll migrate in that motion outwards radially and slowly towards the entrance of the ear canal. And then you have another layer of dead skin that's formed, and that after a while dies and sheds. It's a continuous shedding and migrating cycle, hence why we always compare it to a conveyor belt. And the rate of migration, we call it an epithelial migration, so it's the epithelial skin cells that form the epidermis. It can range, it's between 1.5 and 3 millimeters a month, and it's comparable to the growth of our fingernails, believe it or not. So in this patient's ear, the skin, as it's migrating outwards from the eardrum, it's just getting trapped in the narrowing. You can see this patient's ear canal really does narrow, and then it widens again. So there's a narrowing there, and then it widens. And the skin's just failing to escape that narrowing, and hence why they're getting a build-up. And same here, you can see on this side, it's managing just to get past the narrowing, but not at a quick enough rate. So eventually this will get blocked. And this is pure dead skin. You can see the texture. You can see that I'm peeling it away from the canal wall. And it's quite a good image, actually, because it illustrates that narrowing, that isthmus that I'm referring to. So an isthmus is just a narrowing within the body. Our ear canals have two. The first one is between the first and second bend of our ear canal. So our ear canals are not straight tubular structures. They are a sigmoid shape, like an S, a snake, and an S bend configuration, more on the outer third of the ear canal. So the first bend is about 0.5 centimetre. You can see that to the left there, and then to the right is the second bend. So it's like a meander within the entrance of the ear canal. And in between the first and second bend, that's probably another narrow region within the ear canal. So that's isthmus number 1, and the isthmus number 2 is deeper in the ear. And the reason why we have an S-bend shaped ear canal is it's believed to be an evolutionary advantage. So it prevents foreign bodies that may enter the ear making direct contact with the eardrum. So it's almost like a shield, a protective barrier, preventing objects from making direct contact with the eardrum if they do manage to somehow enter the ear. In order for the object to enter the ear, when you've got a twist and a bend, it'll have to navigate both walls, both bends, which is, of course, going to be quite tricky. So I'm really just pulling away at that. These hairs are actually from the outside of the patient's ear. The patient did tie their hair back, but a couple just got trapped. So they all come out with the suction probe, as you can see there. So that's patient 2. That's patient 1 complete, and this is patient 2. Now this patient has got underlying, you'll see it in a moment. Again, it's really deep. So both cases, they had in this case, the wax had been pushed in. You may have seen the indentation in the wax. Whereas patient 1, it's more of a natural phenomenon. With this particular patient, it's more self-inflicted, I believe. And it's more earwax and dead skin. You can see the difference in texture. The wax plug is more denser. Came away pretty straightforwardly. There's a bit of skin around the edge that I'm going to remove. Now you can see either side of the eardrum, the patient has got scar tissue. We call that tympanosclerosis. It's a calcification of the middle membrane of the eardrum. So I made reference to the eardrum having 3 membranes earlier. The outermost membrane facing us, the lateral membrane, is made up of the same skin that lines the ear canal, the outermost layer of skin, should I say, the epidermis. The inner membrane of the eardrum is the skin that lines the middle ear cavity. It's a mucosal skin. So the mucosal skin, example of that, although it's not quite the same in the middle ear, but it's a good example, is the skin that lines our nose. So it's more secretory, it's more moist. And then you've got the middle layer, which is made up of fibrous tissue. And this patient had a grommet fitted. A grommet is a ventilation tube designed to allow air to enter through the eardrum into the middle ear. If air can't enter via the normal route, which is the eustachian tube, a narrow tube that connects the middle ear behind the nose to the back of the eardrum. And a grommet eventually falls out, and quite often, not always, but when the grommet kind of removes itself and migrates, we get scar tissue on the front and back of the eardrum. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Take care.